I was consecrated Abbot of the Order of St Francis and St Clare in Edinburgh at St Giles Cathedral, and my responsibilities are to try and rebuild, as it were, the Order of St Francis and St Clare. And to that extent, I've written a new rule, a rule for Pilgrims of Hope, which I'm going to pass around to all of you. We're only doing 30 printed copies because, in Franciscan tradition, being slightly ecologically minded is really rather important. So if I can pass them around, there we go. One for you, one there for you. Okay, fantastic. And what I'm going to do, sorry, there we go. Thank you. There we are. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically, I'm going to go through the rule. I'm going to talk about it. Don't be scared. It's not a prescriptive rule. There we go. If anybody wants to take any more with them afterwards, you'll be more than welcome to do so. That would be great. So the rule itself, as you can see, it's called Pilgrims of Hope. And inside on the first page, as it were, you can see on there, you can see the 14 chapters that make up the rule. So, let me begin first of all. Oh, I just want to say one or two other things first of all. Put the statue of Our Lady of Walsingham here with us, so that we have Our Lady with us today. And also in here, this is a first-class relic of Saint Teresa of Calcutta, Mother Teresa. She and I were correspondents back in the 1980s, late 80s, and there's a letter from her and some of her hair. So we have a first-class relic. If you want to bring up your crosses or your whatever you like and touch the box with it, that makes what you touch the box a third-class relic. So do feel free to come and do that. So I've brought Mother Teresa with us here today as well. First of all then, what is a rule? Why do we do a rule? What's Franciscans all about? Well, our rule for a Pilgrim of Hope includes dedicated time for prayer and a connection to God. It directs daily work and any ministry, helping to integrate faith into these activities. Our rule for a Pilgrim of Hope provides a path of ongoing personal and spiritual development within a Franciscan charism, to live a life that bears witness to Christ in every aspect of our ordinary lives. Our rule for a Pilgrim of Hope is personal and spiritually based, not a rigid mandate. We are called to seek God by engaging in our daily temporal responsibilities and ordering them according to God's will. Our rule for a Pilgrim of Hope enables us to be active in caring for creation. And we've got a lot of wind outside at the moment. God's creation is very exciting at times. To promote justice and to work for the common good, thus fulfilling our call to sanctify the world. By living out our vocations, we can find holiness in the ordinary miracles around us. And as some of you may know, after a particular incident that happened to me when I was living in Johannesburg, I ended up in hospital, and at the same time, Charlotte's Web had just been released. And the theme song to Charlotte's Web was called Just Another Ordinary Miracle Today. And after that incident, everything suddenly just became just another ordinary miracle today. The sun came up, just another ordinary miracle today. I forgot the booklet, just another ordinary miracle today. Praise God for that. So now, let's just briefly look at the rules. Chapter 1 is seeking God. So, to summarise that, as a Pilgrim of Hope, you set the first rule of your journey in the quiet, persistent seeking of the divine. So we're seeking God, a pursuit that is both intimate and communal. In the hush of sunrise, you may whisper, Lord, show me your ways. While in the bustling market, you watch strangers hand someone a loaf, sensing the invisible thread of the Almighty's presence. This dual awareness reminds the pilgrim that God is not confined to cathedral walls nor distant heavens. He's found in the sigh of a tired mother, in the rhythm of a river. There's You know, with your very personal cross, you have the stones from the river you used to play with as a child set into a crucifix. And the echo of ancient psalms. As St. Augustine once murmured, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord," is a very famous quote, "and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." Inviting every seeker to recognise that the quest for God is both a personal longing and a shared pilgrimage toward a horizon that forever extends beyond our own understanding. So chapter 2 in the rule, following Jesus. Following Jesus, then, is less a historical costume drama that obliges us to mimic the dusty sandals and hammer strokes of a first century carpenter. I do normally wear sandals, I must say, but in the weather that we've had, I've got shoes on today, but there we go. And more, it's more an open-handed invitation to let God's compassion, humility, and sacrificial love reshape the particular gifts and the particular limits God has woven into each of us. It is a call that resonates across cultures and generations. When Christ whispers, "Come to me, all who are weary." And it is in that invitation that we discover a paradoxical freedom. Freedom not in the removal of responsibility, but in the surrender of ego, the softening of our own self-assertion, so that the ordinary rhythms of work, family, and even the small frustrations of daily life, like delaying your start, which is great news, isn't it? The softening of our own self-assertion, so that the ordinary rhythms of work, family, and the small frustrations of daily life become, as some believers sense, crucibles of divine grace. Do you know the brand Le Creuset? Le Creuset is actually a French word which means crucible. It's something that it pours out the iron that creates the metal that creates the products. Crucibles of divine grace. From the perspective of a busy parent, the kitchen table can become a place of quiet service, mirroring Christ's tender care for the hungry. From the view of a weary professional, a missed deadline can be reshaped into a moment of patience and humility, echoing the carpenter's patient toil. And from the stance of a lifelong skeptic, the very act of listening to that ancient invitation may open a space where doubts are not crushed but transformed into a deeper, more honest yearning for wholeness. In every case, the story does not demand a reenactment of ancient rituals, but rather a continual, reflective letting go of self-centered ambition, allowing the divine narrative to flow through our unique lives and turn each fleeting moment into a lived testimony of love that is both intimate and universal. So chapter 3 of the rule, members of one body. The third rule embraces the truth that every pilgrim is an indivisible part of a larger living body. A tapestry, that's this metaphor I like to use a lot, a tapestry woven from countless stories, cultures, and vocations. In the choir of a small village, the low hum of the elderly's prayers blends with the exuberant chants of youths, illustrating how each voice, however faint, sustains the symphony of hope. A refugee's tale of displacement. A farmer's gratitude for rain. I come from a very rural part of the country. I'm in the middle of very rural Norfolk, working Norfolk, and farming is a huge industry. The reason why we have such long holidays at school, I teach at a primary school, part-time. The reason why we have the big summer holidays is because, of course, all the children had to go and help bring in the harvest. And that was why there's a big summer holiday to help do that. So, the farmer's gratitude for rain, the teacher's dedication to curious minds converge, revealing that the body's strength lies in its diversity. We are not all the same, but we are together. Paul's admonition, if one part suffers, all suffer together. If one part is honoured, all rejoice together, echoes through these varied experiences, urging the pilgrim of hope to cherish solidarity. The pilgrim therefore learns that hope is not a solitary flame, but a fire kindled by the collective warmth of all who share our journey. Chapter 4, called to freedom. The fourth rule declares that the pilgrim of hope is summoned to a freedom that transcends mere political emancipation, reaching into the realms of heart, mind, and spirit. A former prisoner may recall the moment when, after the clanging of the cell doors, they felt an inner release that no law could grant. Echoing the Apostles' cry, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Yet freedom is also witnessed in a child's laughter after a storm. You should see the wonder of the children that I teach when they see a rainbow. Extraordinary. In the community's decision to let go of old grievances. And in a scholar's willingness to question entrenched doctrines. I come from a Catholic background. I was a Roman Catholic, brought up. I was just saying to your husband actually that I was brought up in a Roman Catholic kindergarten. I went to Roman Catholic prep school. I went to Roman Catholic high school. I went to a Jesuit-run university. I became a Carmelite friar. So my journey to here has been Roman Catholic all the way through, and I carry that through in my role now as a Franciscan. And I've taken final vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. We'll come on to that a little later. So each perspective reminds the pilgrim that true liberty is a daily, intentional choice to trust, to love, and to act without the shackles of fear or prejudice. In this way, hope becomes the wind, and can hear the wind outside. I think we've got a yellow wind warning at the moment, that lifts the pilgrim's spirit, propelling you onward toward a horizon where every soul can breathe unencumbered. Rule 5, chapter 5, that we might be rich. The fifth rule redefines wealth, shifting the pilgrim's focus from material accumulation to an abundance of compassion, generosity, and purpose. A merchant may count his or her coins, yet they discover a richer treasure when they share a portion of that profit with a widow. Recalling Jesus' words, it is more blessed to give than to receive. A nurse, both my sister-in-law and both sisters-in-laws are nurses, and they certainly do get exhausted. So a nurse exhausted after a long shift finds true riches in the gratitude of a patient's smile, while a farmer sees the bountiful harvest as a testament to God's providence rather than a mere crop yield. Across these lenses, richness is measured by the depth of relationships, the extent of mercy, and the willingness to sow hope in barren places. That's our job, to sow hope in barren places. By anchoring wealth in love, the pilgrim learns that the greatest treasure is the ever-expanding capacity of the heart to receive and give without end. Chapter 6, Rule 6, is about the breaking of the bread. Father Andrew will know that yesterday, when we celebrated a Mass for St. Francis, anticipating today's feast of St. Francis, I had remembered the wine and I'd forgotten the bread. And very kindly, the kitchen allowed me some bread to take up to use in the Eucharist in the Mass that we did yesterday evening, along with evening prayer and the rosary. And I was very touched by the fact that they knew what it was for and they were very willing to help. And I just, great, wonderful. The sixth rule invites the pilgrim to partake in the symbolic and tangible act of breaking bread. And we had real bread to break. A gesture that unites the sacred with the everyday. In a modest kitchen, a family, they don't need to be related, gathers around a loaf, each slice representing shared narratives, joys, sorrows, and aspirations, mirroring the Last Supper's intimate communion. A refugee camp's communal meal becomes a testament to resilience, as strangers break bread together, echoing the psalmist's prayer, let them eat and be satisfied. Yet the breaking also occurs in a silent moment when a pilgrim offers a crumb of kindness to a lonely neighbour, remembering that the bread of hope is best served warm. Through these varied perspectives, the pilgrim of hope discovers that each broken piece carries a promise that love, like bread, multiplies when shared, sustaining the journey toward a horizon of inexhaustible hope. The seventh rule is on prayer. The seventh rule places prayer at the heart of the pilgrim's itinerary, a dialogue that bridges the temporal with the eternal. In the stillness of a desert night, you, a wanderer, lift your eyes skyward, whispering, teach me to trust the unseen. In a bustling city subway, a commuter silently recites a familiar psalm, finding solace amid chaos. Scholars debate the mystic's language, while children chant the simple prayers before bedtime, each voice contributing to a chorus that reverberates across generations, as the Beatitudes reminds us. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Prayer becomes the nourishment that steadies the pilgrim's steps, a compass that points not only to divine answers, but toward the transformative power of listening. Through diverse lenses, prayer emerges as both a personal refuge and a communal anthem, sustaining hope in every season of the pilgrimage. I don't know if you recall, back in the 80s, there was a certain movement that had a song which was something like, we are an Easter people and Alleluia is our song. But we're not always an Easter people.
Charismatic?
Catholic, I think it was, but it might have been charismatic. But I don't agree with that, you see. I don't think we are an Easter people and Alleluia is our song all the time. What was it that we said when we were lifting our eyes? Teach me to trust the unseen, when things go wrong, when things are bad. It's not necessarily Alleluia that is a song. It might be, Lord, forgive me for my unbelief. So the eighth rule celebrates the abundant harvest that awaits the pilgrim who sows seeds of hope, perseverance and love. A farmer watches their fields turn golden, recalling the promise, the earth will bring forth its fruit. While a teacher witnesses learners' breakthroughs, each grade a ripened grain of knowledge. In a war-torn village, a community garden sprouts beans and carrots, symbolizing resilience. And a poet gathers verses like ripe fruit, ready to share with the world. These varied perspectives illustrate that the harvest is not solely agricultural. It is the culmination of every act of kindness, every lesson learnt, every prayer uttered. The pilgrim of hope, therefore, learns that hope, when nurtured patiently, yields a bounty so great that it feeds not only the body but also the soul, echoing the psalmist's declaration, the righteous shall inherit the earth. The 9th rule reminds the pilgrim that each individual is a living cell within the body of the Lord, a dynamic organism that thrives on interdependence. If I can use my own experiences, I used to run a church choir, quite a big one actually, 30 members. And as a former choir director, I note, sorry, it was a bad pun, wasn't it? I note how a single voice, though beautiful alone, gains resonance when it's harmonised with others. Just as St. Paul writes, if one part suffers, all suffer together. A doctor tending to patients sees each cure as a pulse that sustains the body's health, while an artist captures the diversity of human experience on canvas. Isn't that a marvellous painting portrait up there? Illustrating the splendid mosaic that forms the whole. From the perspective of a grieving person to that of a jubilant newborn, the pilgrimage teaches that every triumph and trial contributes to the vitality of the collective. Thus, hope is not an isolated flame, but a shared heartbeat that sustains the body of the Lord, urging each pilgrim to cherish and nurture the sacred unity that binds them all. Rule 10 calls the pilgrim to cultivate a spiritual life that is as vibrant and evolving as a river carving its path through varied terrain. In my own village, the River Yare cuts through our village, and going back 1,000 years, maybe 2,000 years, to when Christ was with us on earth, that river was much, much larger. It's interesting that it's still large, but it's much narrower now than it was originally 1,000, 2,000 years ago. Interesting to see how the river changes the landscape, the path through the varied terrain. A mystic speaks of silence as a cavern where the divine whispers, while a scientist marvels at the ordered chaos of the cosmos, recognizing the wonder that fuels reverence. And I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures from the new telescope out in space, but isn't that extraordinary to see that chaos of the cosmos? A grandmother, my grandmother did, recounts bedtime stories that weave moral fibres into the fabric of her grandchildren's hearts. Mine used to read the Brothers Grimm in the original version. I'm not quite sure if that fits in with that, because they're quite violent. If anyone wants to know, I'll tell you about the violence later. And a social activist finds sanctity in the pursuit of justice, echoing the prophet's cry, let justice roll down like waters. Across these lenses, the spiritual life emerges not as a static doctrine, but as a living, breathing practice that embraces doubt, gratitude, and transformation. In nurturing this inner pilgrimage, the pilgrim of hope discovers that every breath, every step, and every encounter becomes an offering, a testament, and the journey toward divine communion is an ever unfolding story of love, resilience, and inexhaustible hope. The 11th rule is about Mary, the unfolding mirror. Brought a statue of Our Lady of Walsingham, the national shrine, both for Catholics and Anglicans and for the Greek Orthodox here in the UK. Beg your pardon, the Orthodox in the UK. And the shrine's about half an hour's drive from where I am. From the earliest whispers of ancient liturgy to the quiet prayers whispered in a modern kitchen, Mary stands as a reflective surface on which countless souls project their hopes, doubts, and aspirations. One might hear a lone pilgrim on the Camino declare, "She is the heart that steadies my wandering," while a scholar of medieval theology notes, Mary's symbolism, ever fluid, adapts to the cultural tides that shape her. In the hush of a cathedral's nave, a teenager may feel a raw, intimate kinship, seeing in Mary a compassionate confidant who listens without judgment. Across continents, the same figure bears the weight of motherhood, sacrifice, and resilience, each culture interpreting her veil with its own palette of colours, from the luminous gold of Eastern icons to the austere greys of Western mural art. Thus Mary becomes not a static icon, but a living dialogue, a mirror that reflects both the universal yearning for tenderness and the particular contours of individual experience. Rule 12, of days and years, the grain of time. When we count the days and years that pass, we often do so with the clinical precision of a calendar. Yet each sunrise and sunset carries the subtle imprint of lived memory. Time is a river that sweeps us along, but we can still see the stones beneath, reminding us that the cadence of daily routines, morning coffee, evening walks, the rustle of pages turning, creates a mosaic of moments that together shape identity. From the perspective of a retired teacher recalling her first classroom, the years are a tapestry woven with threads of triumphs and setbacks, each year a distinct hue that deepens the overall picture. Meanwhile, a child, eyes bright with curiosity, perceives time as an endless playground where tomorrow is merely an extension of today's wonder, and I can certainly assure you of that. In the reflective quiet of an elder's memoir, a passage of years becomes both a source of nostalgia and a testament to endurance, illustrating that while the calendar ticks inexorably forward, the human heart can pause, linger, and savour the fleeting beauty hidden within each day's ordinary miracle. Just another ordinary miracle today. Rule 13, we look at the end and the beginning, the eternal loop. The notion that every ending cradles a nascent beginning reverberates through myths, science, and everyday life, urging us to see closure not as loss, but as fertile ground for rebirth. As an ancient Sanskrit mantra declares, from the ashes of death the phoenix rises. So too does a broken relationship, after its painful dissolution, often give rise to a deeper self-understanding and the courage to love anew. A botanist watches a seed crack open, recognizing that the plant's death-like dormancy in winter is merely a prelude to spring's burst of green, a reminder that cycles are built into nature's very DNA. I don't know if some of you may be familiar with the Philip Larkin poem about lambs that are born into snow, and they've got absolutely no idea that under that snow, and it's cold, it's wet, it's nasty, it's windy, and they've got no idea that under that snow, in the summer, there'll be grass, there'll be sunshine, there'll be warmth. They have no idea. A friend of mine is dying in a hospice at the moment. He developed motor neuron disease 6 months ago, and it's progressed incredibly quickly. It's very sad. But in the quiet of a hospice room, and I've been in the quiet of that hospice room with him, he can't speak anymore. A family may lament the final breath of a beloved, yet simultaneously feel the quiet echo of gratitude for a life well lived, an unspoken promise that memories will seed future generations. Philosophers argue that the universe itself is a grand oscillation, big bang to big crunch to big bang to big crunch, expansion to contraction, suggesting that endings and beginnings are intertwined. Threads in the same cosmic fabric, each moment a hinge upon which the next chapter swings. I'd like you, if you could, to look at the final rule, which isn't a rule, but it's the prayer of St. Francis. Can I suggest that we just pray this together before I speak briefly about this prayer? It's on page 53 of your book. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is offence, let me bring pardon. Where there is discord, let me bring union. Where there is error, let me bring truth. Where there is doubt, let me bring faith. Where there is despair, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, let me bring your light. Where there is sadness, let me bring joy. O Lord, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that one receives, it is in self-forgetting that one finds, it is in forgiving that one is forgiven, it is in dying that one awakens to eternal life. They're beautiful words. They're attributed to St. Francis, but in fact, I'm sorry to tell you this, the earliest reference we have to that prayer is 1903. But that doesn't deny the truth of the words. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace, begins that beloved prayer. And its gentle cadence invites us to contemplate the transformative power of humility and service. A hospice nurse, weary after long shifts, may recite these words aloud, feeling the gentle shift from self-centered fatigue to a broader compassion that steadies their hands. A city dweller caught in traffic might whisper the prayer under their breath, discovering that even amidst honking horns, and we had quite a few of those this morning, the plea for peace where there is hatred can soften the hard edges of urban stress. From a scholar's perspective, the prayer's simple language functions as a universal bridge, crossing cultural and religious boundaries, echoing the sentiment that true strength lies in surrender, that mercy flows from the heart like a quiet river. In the reflective silence of a meditation hall, a group of strangers joins voices, each line a shared intention that knits them together, demonstrating how that centuries-old petition can still ripple through the contemporary consciousness, urging each listener to become, in small yet profound ways, a living embodiment of love, patience, and hope. St. Francis of Assisi, pray for us. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm sorry if I delayed us too long at the beginning. As I say, if you want to place any objects on the relic of Mother Teresa, you're more than welcome to do so. And I hope you take the rule away with you.